Pieter Bruegel the Elder was an artist of the Northern Renaissance whose visually engrossing paintings offer a celebration of the common mass of humanity, in contrast to the pious religious painting which dominated much Renaissance art of the previous century. Born in what is now the Netherlands in the 1520s, reputedly into a peasant family, his work focuses on themes such as rural working life, religion, and superstition, and the political and social intrigues of his day. These themes were tackled with an unmistakable, droll, and often grotesque humor, an interest in the collective over the individual, and a healthy skepticism for narratives of great deeds and men. From the Dutch Golden Age painters of the following century to the realists of 19th century France and beyond, any artist who has cast their eye over their subject with an honesty debunking mythology works in the spirit of the man sometimes known as Peasant Bruegel. This is the Procession to Calvary, one of Pieter Bruegel the Elder's most monumental works, both in scale and complexity. Painted in 1564, it stands as Bruegel's second largest surviving panel. The painting was commissioned by Nicolaas Jongelink, a prominent Antwerp merchant and collector who owned an impressive array of Bruegel's masterpieces, including the renowned Month series. Over the centuries, the painting traveled through the collections of Emperor Rudolf II in Prague and Napoleon Bonaparte in Paris, before settling at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna. Bruegel's interpretation of Christ's journey to Calvary is anything but conventional. Unlike traditional depictions that place Christ at the center of the composition, Bruegel minimizes his figure, embedding him within a vast sea of humanity. Dressed in muted tones, Christ is almost indistinguishable as he bears the cross. This deliberate choice forces the viewer to search for him amid the chaotic crowd, emphasizing how the sacred event is overshadowed by worldly distractions. The painting is alive with activity, portraying over 500 figures engaged in their own dramas. Soldiers in vibrant red uniforms maintain order, merchants barter, and villagers gossip. A man carries a basket of goods. Another leads a donkey laden with supplies. These scenes of everyday life starkly contrast with the gravity of Christ's sacrifice. Pieter Bruegel captures humanity's indifference, depicting a society more preoccupied with its daily pursuits than the profound moment unfolding in its midst. The sacred figures Christ, the Virgin Mary, St. John, and the two other Marys are intentionally separated from the main action. Mary, fainting from grief, is supported by St. John in a rocky, elevated foreground. This placement creates a poignant emotional core, yet their isolation underscores how unnoticed their suffering is amid the bustling crowd. Bruegel's landscape is equally significant. The jagged, rocky terrain with its exaggerated outcrops reflects the influence of the Antwerp school, particularly Joachim Patinier's tradition of expansive, fantastical landscapes. Yet Bruegel goes beyond imitation. grounding the scene in a vivid, almost oppressive realism. The winding path, dotted with figures and leading to a distant horizon, guides the viewer's eye through the narrative, from the central procession to the crucifixion site on the hill. At the pinnacle of the hill stands a foreboding array of crucifixes. The stark verticality of the crosses contrasts with the horizontal sweep of the landscape, symbolizing the intersection of divine sacrifice and earthly existence. Above, the sky darkens ominously, foreshadowing the tragic climax of the story. Despite its biblical subject, Bruegel's work is firmly rooted in the 16th century. The figures wear contemporary clothing, and the soldiers are equipped with armor and weaponry typical of Bruegel's time. This anachronism bridges the gap between the past and the present, inviting viewers to reflect on how the themes of sacrifice, suffering, and human indifference remain universal and timeless. The painting also hints at Bruegel's critique of societal structures. The soldiers enforcing order, the merchants profiting, and the villagers indulging in spectacle suggest a world in which power, greed, and apathy dominate. Christ's suffering becomes a quiet counterpoint to this loud, self-absorbed crowd, a reminder of the cost of human sin. In the lower left corner, a wheel of torture and a man hung by the neck add to the painting's grim atmosphere, emphasizing the brutality of the era. This detail, juxtaposed with the distant idyllic hills and villages, highlights the duality of human existence, beauty and violence, faith and cruelty, all coexisting in a single moment. Through his masterful composition, Bruegel invites viewers not only to witness, but to engage. His meticulous attention to detail, from the expressions of individual figures to the vastness of the landscape, encourages repeated exploration and reflection. Ultimately, the procession to Calvary is not just a depiction of a biblical narrative. It is a profound commentary on humanity, its resilience and its failings, its capacity for both devotion and indifference. Pieter Bruegel's painting transcends its time, offering a lens through which we can examine our own lives and the world around us. The Adoration of the Kings by Pieter Bruegel the Elder, painted in 1564, now resides in the National Gallery, London. This work is a pivotal piece in Bruegel's artistic journey, marking a departure from his earlier compositions by focusing almost exclusively on large, closely cropped figures. At the heart of the scene lies the Christ child, seated on the Virgin Mary's lap. From a high vantage point, our gaze is drawn directly to him, surrounded by a chaotic assembly of people. The tight composition eliminates spatial depth, amplifying the intensity of the moment. Unlike many nativity scenes inspired by Italian Renaissance ideals, Bruegel's figures are not classically beautiful. Instead, they are raw and grounded, reflecting the artist's preference for portraying life as it truly is. This divergence from traditional beauty can be seen in the Magi, whose elongated forms and exaggerated gestures evoke the mannerist influences of painters like Parmigianino. However, Bruegel subverts these influences, focusing on the individuality of each face. From awe to skepticism, each figure expresses a unique response to the miraculous event unfolding before them. Bruegel's humor and symbolism shine in the details. A man wearing spectacles stands on the far right, a recurring motif in Bruegel work to mock those blind to the truth. His inclusion suggests that even in the presence of divine revelation, some remain oblivious. Adding to this are the soldiers in the background, an unusual choice for an adoration scene. These armed figures may reflect the Spanish occupation of the Netherlands during Bruegel time, a subtle nod to the socio-political unrest of the 16th century. The Magi, adorned in vibrant and slightly grotesque costumes, lead the procession of visitors to the infant Christ. Each brings not only gifts, but a distinct personality, from the confident bearing of the eldest king to the humble reverence of the youngest. Their exaggerated features, uncommon in the Renaissance depictions of the Magi, further emphasize Bruegel's focus on character over idealized form. Even in such a sacred moment, Bruegel injects a sense of the ordinary. Soldiers with their spears and armor hint at the pervasive tension and conflict of his era. These details ground the painting in reality, reminding viewers of the continuity of human struggles, even amidst divine revelation. What truly distinguishes the Adoration of the Kings is Bruegel's ability to convey both grandeur and intimacy. The densely packed figures amplify the sense of a world bustling with life and complexity. Yet the focus always returns to the serene central figures of Mary and Christ, a quiet haven amidst the chaos. Bruegel's work invites us to look closer, not just at the Holy Family, but at humanity's varied reactions to the miraculous. Through his distinct style and meticulous attention to detail, Bruegel crafts a scene that is as much about divine presence as it is about human nature, ensuring this masterpiece resonates across centuries. This winter landscape with ice skaters and bird trap, painted in 1565, is a masterpiece that captures both the playfulness and quiet unease of winter. It is one of Bruegel's iconic depictions of daily life during the Little Ice Age, a period marked by prolonged cold winters in Europe. At first glance, the scene radiates charm. Villagers gather on a frozen river, skating, playing games, and socializing, while others tend to their chores. The delicate brush strokes bring a crisp chill to the air and a tangible liveliness to the bustling winter scene. However, as with much of Bruegel work, there is more beneath the surface. In the foreground, a carefully rendered bird trap becomes a focal point. A simple wooden mechanism designed to ensnare birds during harsh winters. The significance of this detail is profound. It transforms the painting into a quiet allegory of human life and vulnerability. Just as the birds are lured to their fate, the skaters on the ice seem carefree but are also subject to hidden dangers. Thin ice can crack, sending them plunging into freezing waters, a metaphor for life's fragility. Bruegel's composition draws the viewer's eye across the landscape with stunning precision. The bare trees, snow-covered rooftops, and soft silhouettes of cottages frame the action. Light plays delicately across the frozen river, illuminating the skaters' joyful activities. Yet amid this beauty, a quiet unease lingers, a hallmark of Bruegel's style. The bird trap subtly reminds us of unseen threats lurking in even the most peaceful scenes. The winter landscape is a product of Bruegel's fascination with rural life and the rhythm of the seasons. It belongs to a series of works, including Hunters in the Snow, that emphasize the harmony and harshness of nature. In particular, this painting reflects the artist's deep connection to the landscapes of his native Flanders, while simultaneously hinting at larger themes of human mortality and the precariousness of existence. Bruegel's work masterfully blends the ordinary with the symbolic. The villagers, rendered in simple forms, exude a sense of familiarity. They are people like us, engrossed in life's fleeting pleasures. Meanwhile, the composition's calm, wintry stillness contrasts with its underlying message. Beauty and danger often coexist. Over the centuries, this painting has invited endless interpretation. Art historians speculate that the bird trap also symbolizes the trap of sin, a popular religious motif in 16th century art. Such moral undertones would have resonated strongly in Bruegel's time, especially against the backdrop of Spanish occupation and religious turmoil in the Netherlands. Winter landscape with ice skaters and bird trap is not merely a snapshot of winter. It is a testament to Bruegel's genius. By juxtaposing playful scenes with ominous undertones, he reminds us to find joy in life's fleeting moments, yet remain aware of the fragile balance that surrounds us. Pieter Bruegel the Elder's Month series is a masterful collection of 6 paintings created in 1565 depicting seasonal changes and the rhythms of rural life. Commissioned by the wealthy Antwerp merchant Nicholas Jongelink, these works were intended to represent the labors of the months, a theme rooted in medieval tradition but reinvented by Bruegel through his innovative use of landscape and narrative detail. Each painting captures not only the natural beauty of the changing seasons, but also the human activities and struggles that accompany them. Bruegel's genius lies in his ability to blend monumental landscapes with vignettes of daily life, imbuing the scenes with both grandeur and intimacy. While the entire series is thought to have originally comprised 12 paintings, only 5 survive today, along with 1 fragment. Among the most celebrated pieces is The Hunters in the Snow, representing the harsh, serene beauty of winter and marking the beginning of our journey through Bruegel's vision of the year. Painted in 1565 as part of Bruegel Month series, The Hunters in the Snow encapsulates the harsh yet tranquil beauty of winter. This masterpiece, housed in the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, remains one of the most celebrated depictions of winter in art history. We begin with the hunters, 3 men, tired and hunched, trudging through the deep snow. Their dogs, tails low, sniff the ground aimlessly. The hunt has yielded little. A single fox dangles lifelessly on a spear, symbolizing both survival and defeat. To the left, villagers gather outside an inn, preparing to roast a pig over an open fire. Above them, a small sign depicts Saint Hubert, patron saint of hunters. This detail connects the painting to themes of perseverance and survival. Beyond the hunters, a frozen expanse opens up. Villagers glide across the ice, skating, curling, and sledding. Children play while adults carry out their routines, creating a sense of lively contrast to the hunter's exhaustion. Bruegel's skill shines in these tiny vignettes. Each figure is painted with meticulous care, telling a story of everyday life. Pieter Bruegel's composition is remarkably harmonious. The towering trees and snow-capped mountains frame the scene, guiding the viewer's gaze across the icy valley. The muted colors and soft winter light create a quiet, contemplative atmosphere, capturing the stillness of winter and the weight it brings. Yet beneath the beauty lies a subtle unease. The hunter's meager catch contrasts with the joy on the ice, suggesting humanity's struggle against the natural world. The distant mountains and steely sky hint at an unforgiving landscape where survival is never guaranteed. In The Hunters in the Snow, Bruegel weaves together a narrative of perseverance, community, and resilience. He does more than depict winter. He invites us to reflect on our connection to nature and the delicate balance of life. Pieter Bruegel the Elder, The Gloomy Day, painted in 1565, represents the months of February and March transitional weeks at the tail end of winter and the beginning of spring. This somber painting is part of the Months series commissioned by Nicholas Jongelink, a wealthy Antwerp merchant and art patron. The painting vividly captures the bleak atmosphere of early spring while subtly hinting at the renewal of life to come. In the foreground, peasants busily cut wood and pollard trees, a traditional practice to promote new growth for fodder or fuel. The stark, bare trees reinforce the frigid feeling of late winter, while the people working and eating reflect a day filled with both labor and brief respite. Bruegel's attention to these simple, everyday activities gives the scene an air of authenticity, elevating ordinary life into timeless art. The painting's palette consists of earthy browns, ochres, and dull greens, mirroring the muted colors of the landscape during this season. As viewers move their gaze toward the middle ground, more narrative details emerge. Children prepare for games. A figure fixes the facade of his home, and boats struggle against rough waves in the turbulent river. The looming stormy sky, dark and foreboding, reinforces the sense of struggle and uncertainty. In The Gloomy Day, Bruegel masterfully layers his composition, leading our eye from the busy activity of the foreground to the unsettled waters and the wide open horizon beyond. The placement of figures grouped and scattered adds movement and dynamism to the scene, reminiscent of Italian mannerism but firmly grounded in Bruegel's own naturalistic style. Symbolism plays a subtle yet significant role. The children wearing paper crowns and eating waffles reference the carnival period before Lent, a time of indulgence preceding the somber season of fasting and reflection. Such symbolic elements hint at themes of transience, hardship, and the cyclical nature of life key motifs throughout Bruegel's work. While the peasants labor and the land remains barren, faint glimmers of green in the distant water and sky foreshadow the promise of spring. This contrast between bleakness and renewal reflects Bruegel's nuanced understanding of seasonal change, capturing both its physical and emotional impact on humanity. Pieter Bruegel's innovation lies not only in his detailed landscapes but in his portrayal of people. Unlike earlier artists who often used idealized forms, Bruegel depicted figures with earthy realism, sometimes clumsy, sometimes melancholic, reflecting the human condition with raw honesty. Here, he invites us to empathize with the toil and simple pleasures of the working class, making The Gloomy Day both a poetic meditation and a mirror of his society. The painting resonates with the viewer as a reflection of nature's rhythms and humanity's resilience, even in the gloomiest of days. In this second installment of the Month series, Bruegel demonstrates his extraordinary ability to blend detailed observation with profound storytelling. painted in 1565, The Hay Harvest by Pieter Bruegel. The Elder is part of his celebrated Months series, a cycle of paintings depicting the changing seasons and the rhythms of rural life. This particular work represents the months of June and July, capturing the essence of summer through its golden hues and tranquil, expansive countryside. The scene is alive with activity. Peasants are hard at work in the hayfields, their figures scattered throughout the composition. In the foreground, labourers scythe the golden fields, cutting and bundling hay into neat piles. Nearby, others gather the harvested bundles, carrying them to the growing haycocks that punctuate the field. The composition, though seemingly chaotic, is carefully balanced. Bruegel blends work with subtle moments of pause and repose. A sense of harmony pervades the painting, with peasants and nature coexisting in mutual rhythm. The vibrant summer landscape stretches into the distance. Rolling hills, clusters of trees, and a winding path that draws the eye further into the scene. The brilliant golden yellow tones of the fields dominate, contrasting beautifully with the soft blues and greens of the distant hills. The painting's figures are small, but their actions resonate with meaning. Bruegel captures the dignity of labor, showing peasants as integral parts of the landscape rather than mere subjects of toil. Each figure contributes to the harvest, their movement creating a pulse of life that permeates the image. The hay harvest also reflects Bruegel's fascination with the everyday lives of ordinary people. Unlike the idealized scenes popular in Italian Renaissance art, Bruegel's depiction is grounded and authentic. There is no grand narrative here. Instead, he presents a slice of rural life as it was, inviting viewers to connect with the universal cycles of nature and labor. In this work, Bruegel draws inspiration from both landscape traditions and the emerging genre of seasonal imagery. His mastery lies in how he transforms a simple hay harvest into a rich visual meditation on humanity's relationship with the land. Through the hay harvest, Bruegel reminds us of the timeless beauty found in life's simplest, yet most essential rhythms. The Harvesters is one of Pieter Bruegel the Elder's most celebrated works. Painted in 1565 as part of his Months series, commissioned by the Antwerp merchant Nicolaes Jongelink. This painting represents late summer, a time of abundance, toil, and rest, capturing both the physical and emotional essence of the harvest season. At the center of the composition, Bruegel creates a vivid depiction of peasant life. Workers are scattered throughout the golden wheat fields, their activities divided between labor and leisure. On the left, a group of laborers reaps the crops with scythes, their bent forms reflecting the strain of their task. In the foreground, a cluster of peasants enjoys a midday break. Some sleep under the shade of a tree, while others share bread and fruit, illustrating a moment of relief and simple pleasures amid the heavy workday. One of Bruegel's great achievements here lies in the naturalism of the scene. Unlike idealized pastoral paintings of his contemporaries, Bruegel portrays peasants as real people, their postures and expressions unpolished but authentic. The figures are not mere symbols of labor but individuals immersed in their world. A woman tilts her head back, perhaps wiping sweat, while another gazes quietly ahead, subtle gestures that humanize the entire tableau. The composition is carefully balanced, with golden fields dominating the upper two-thirds of the panel, while the peasants anchor the lower third. Bruegel draws the viewer's eye toward the background where a distant landscape unfolds. Rolling hills, a blue sky and a faint sea horizon convey a sense of expansive calm, offsetting the intense activity below. This juxtaposition of busy foreground and serene background is a hallmark of Bruegel work, inviting viewers to contemplate both the details of daily life and the grandeur of nature. Notably, the painting reflects Bruegel's unique perspective on the human condition. While celebrating the productivity of rural life, he hints at its hardships. The figures resting under the tree suggest fatigue, a reminder of the relentless demands of manual labor. Yet there is no overt moralizing here. Instead, Bruegel presents a timeless scene of people connected to the land, performing rituals that echo through centuries. Critics also note Bruegel's subtle references to social order and seasonal cycles. The Harvesters does not idealize rural life, but instead acknowledges its rhythms, work, rest, and sustenance essential to both survival and harmony with nature. The peasant's connection to the land contrasts with the growing urbanization of Bruegel's time, making this work an ode to simpler, albeit challenging, ways of life. In the context of the month series, The Harvesters serves as a pivotal piece, showcasing Bruegel's ability to blend meticulous observation with artistic imagination. The warm tones of the wheat fields, the dappled light, and the rich details of the figures make this painting a masterpiece of Northern Renaissance art. The Return of the Herd is one of Pieter Bruegel the Elder's paintings from the Month series created in 1565 depicting autumn. It highlights the seasonal task of shepherds driving cattle down from mountain pastures as winter approaches. Bruegel likely drew inspiration for this composition from his travels through Switzerland, as the subject, transhumance or seasonal migration of livestock, was less common in the Netherlands. At the center of the painting, herdsmen guide the cows downhill, illustrating both the hard labor and the seasonal rhythm of rural life. The cattle, prominent in size and detail, dominate the foreground, while the shepherds, somewhat smaller and blending into the activity, demonstrate Bruegel's focus on naturalistic scenes of everyday life. Bruegel's use of landscape here is particularly striking. The vast expanse of the natural world, with its hills, winding paths, and stormy skies, establishes a dramatic tone. The muted, autumnal color palette, shades of brown, gray, and gold, captures the fleeting mood of the season as life prepares for the hardships of winter. The painting is also a masterful study of motion and narrative. The herders and cattle form a diagonal composition, which naturally leads the viewer's eye through the painting, from the crowded lower right corner to the distant, wild landscape in the background. While the focus is on the immediate work of the herdsman, the sweeping environment adds a sense of grandeur, underscoring humanity's smallness against the vast, unrelenting forces of nature. The dynamic atmosphere, with its impending storm and bustling activity, creates a sense of urgency. At the same time, Bruegel remains rooted in his fascination with depicting humanity's interaction with the land, a recurring theme throughout the month series. Currently housed at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, The Return of the Herd demonstrates Bruegel's exceptional ability to merge narrative, human experience, and the natural world into a single, harmonious composition. Pieter Bruegel the Elder's Christ and the Woman Taken in Adultery is a striking small panel painting executed in grisaille, a monochromatic technique primarily using shades of grey. Completed in 1565, it is one of Bruegel's rare works that draws directly from religious themes. This masterpiece, located in the Courtauld Gallery, London, reflects Bruegel's exceptional ability to capture narrative depth and moral complexity within a restrained color palette. The scene illustrates a moment from the Gospel of John. Christ is confronted by the Pharisees and scribes, who bring forward a woman accused of adultery. According to Mosaic law, such a sin was punishable by death through stoning. However, Christ's profound response, "He who is without sin among you, let him cast the first stone," transforms the encounter into a timeless plea for compassion and introspection. Bruegel depicts this moment with powerful simplicity. At the center, Christ kneels, writing in the dust, a symbolic act underscoring his divine wisdom and humility. Around him, the accusing figures form a dense, oppressive crowd. Each face is rendered with extraordinary individuality and subtle emotion, a hallmark of Bruegel's style. Their expressions range from indignation to uncertainty, reflecting their inner moral struggle. Notably, the grisaille medium enhances the narrative's somber tone. By foregoing vibrant colors, Bruegel intensifies the drama and directs our focus to the figures and their actions. This restrained technique also mimics the appearance of sculptures or engravings, aligning with Northern Renaissance traditions of storytelling through visual economy. The composition conveys tension and balance. Christ, the woman, and the accusing crowd occupy a confined architectural space, symbolizing the rigid structures of judgment and law. Yet Christ's serene posture and downward gaze counteract the hostility, creating a moment of divine grace amid human imperfection. This painting carries broader significance. Created during a period of religious and political upheaval in the Netherlands, it can be seen as a subtle commentary on intolerance and self-righteousness. Bruegel's art transcends its biblical roots, offering a timeless reflection on humanity's flaws and the need for mercy. The work, measuring a mere 34.4 and 24.1 centimeter, showcases Bruegel's mastery in miniature form. It remained within his family for decades and inspired numerous copies, further attesting to its enduring impact. Christ and the woman taken in adultery is not only a testament to Bruegel's skill, but also a profound meditation on justice, compassion, and the human condition. In Preaching of John the Baptist, painted in 1566, Pieter Bruegel the Elder masterfully brings a biblical event into the familiar world of 16th century Europe. Set in a sprawling woodland, the painting depicts John the Baptist calling for repentance, a message of humility in preparation for the arrival of Christ. Rather than placing John at the center of the composition, Bruegel weaves him subtly into the crowd. He is barely distinguishable, with his modest robe and outstretched arm delivering his sermon. This choice draws our attention not only to John, but to the people who listen, or choose not to. Bruegel turns the scene into a study of humanity, showcasing a diverse assembly of peasants, merchants, nobles, and even skeptics. Each face in the throng tells its own story. Some listen with rapt attention, as if touched by John's words. Others seem distracted or indifferent, lost in their own world. A few figures even exchange whispers, casting doubt or carrying on idle conversations, a subtle nod to human nature's varied responses to spiritual truth. The lush landscape plays its own role in the narrative. Bruegel's natural setting conveys a sense of divine presence in creation itself. The dense trees and rolling terrain mirror the universality of John's message. It is meant for all, regardless of class or creed. Pieter Bruegel's decision to dress the crowd in contemporary Flemish attire brings the biblical past into his present day. It was a technique that would resonate deeply with his audience. In this, the painting reflects not just a religious story but also a quiet commentary on Bruegel's time, an era divided by the religious turmoil of the Reformation. At the heart of it all stands John. Humble and unassuming, his presence reminds us of his purpose: to prepare the people for Christ. Yet as Bruegel captures so perfectly, not everyone sees or understands the significance of the moment. In preaching of John the Baptist, Bruegel transcends a simple retelling of Scripture. He gives us a vivid, living tapestry of humanity, flawed, diverse, and reflective of his own world. The painting calls us to look within ourselves, to question where we stand amidst the crowd. Are we attentive? Are we indifferent? Or are we simply unaware of the message that unfolds before us? Through this masterwork, Bruegel reminds us that faith and truth are often hidden in plain sight, waiting to be seen by those willing to listen. Pieter Bruegel the Elders. The census at Bethlehem, painted in 1566, is a masterful depiction of the biblical story combined with the daily life of 16th century Flanders. Currently housed in the Royal Museums of Fine Arts of Belgium, this work transforms a sacred moment into a relatable, contemporary scene, a hallmark of Bruegel's approach to storytelling. The Gospel of Luke describes the event that inspired this painting. Luke 2:15 states, "And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child." At first glance, the painting seems to depict nothing more than a bustling, snow-covered village. Villagers are immersed in their daily activities, sweeping snow, loading carts, and building a cabin. Children play joyfully, skating on a frozen pond, throwing snowballs and spinning tops, their energy providing warmth amidst the harsh winter. But Bruegel invites us to look closer. In the right foreground we find Joseph and Mary, nearly lost in the crowd. Mary, wrapped tightly in a blue mantle, sits astride a donkey while Joseph leads them quietly past barrels and oxen. Bruegel portrays them as simple travelers, drawing no attention to their sacred role. This choice reflects his subtle narrative style, where monumental events unfold quietly, woven into the fabric of everyday life. The left side of the composition reveals a poignant detail. Villagers press around a tax office, set up at the inn's window. Here, Bruegel ties the Gospel's universal census to the harsh realities of his own time, perhaps alluding to the oppressive taxation under the Spanish administration in the southern Netherlands. A pig being slaughtered nearby underscores Bruegel's unfiltered realism, capturing both the sacred and the profane. From a high panoramic perspective, Bruegel constructs a snow-covered village stretching across the canvas. The ruined castle in the distance and the frozen ferryboat trapped in the ice evoke themes of abandonment and hardship. Yet within this bleak winter landscape, the warmth of human activity persists. Fires burn, laborers toil, and children play. Bruegel was one of the first artists to paint snow scenes, likely influenced by the Books of Hours, illuminated manuscripts depicting seasonal cycles. This innovation gave his work a striking sense of immediacy and realism. Here, he uses the snow not only as a backdrop, but also as a symbol of time's passage and humanity's endurance through harsh conditions. What makes the census at Bethlehem so remarkable is its balance of sacred narrative and social commentary. While Joseph and Mary fulfill their divine purpose, they do so amidst a world preoccupied with mundane concerns. Bruegel reminds us that the extraordinary can exist quietly, hidden in the ordinary. By framing the biblical story within the struggles of 16th century village life, he invites us to see divinity in the details, the weary travelers, the bustling villages, and the frozen streets of a humble Flemish town. Bruegel's innovative approach, blending realism, social critique, and biblical storytelling, ensures that the census at Bethlehem resonates far beyond its time. It is a scene of profound humility, where history, faith, and humanity come together in a quiet but enduring harmony. Bruegel's The Wedding Dance, sometimes referred to as the Village Dance, painted in 1566, is a lively depiction of rural festivities and social dynamics in the 16th century. This oil-on-panel masterpiece captures Bruegel's signature blend of detailed observation, social commentary, and earthy humor, making it one of his most iconic works. At the heart of the painting lies a scene of unbridled joy and celebration. A vibrant crowd of peasants fills the composition, energetically dancing under fluttering banners. The rhythm of their movements is palpable, almost drawing us into the festivities. Yet Bruegel's portrayal is far from idealized. His figures, with their exaggerated poses and flushed faces, feel both humorous and deeply human. Pieter Bruegel often used such portrayals to comment on the excesses of human behavior. And here, the villagers' revelry borders on the chaotic. Look closely at the dancers and you'll see a remarkable level of individuality. Some couples spin with abandon, while others engage in flirtation or chatter. Bruegel captures varied emotions, from sheer joy to indulgence, with a masterful eye for detail. The men's brightly colored clothing, particularly the bold reds, creates a striking visual contrast against the earthy tones of the scene, further heightening the sense of movement and life. The setting is just as telling. Nestled amidst trees, the village square provides a rustic backdrop, subtly highlighting Bruegel's ability to blend human activity into its natural surroundings. The banners overhead, often interpreted as symbols of festivity, may also allude to traditional customs of courtship and community gatherings in the Low Countries during this period. Interestingly, Bruegel's depiction of such peasant life was revolutionary. At a time when most artists focused on religious or aristocratic themes, Bruegel turned his attention to the lives of ordinary people. Yet his works were rarely neutral. They often carried moral undertones. The peasant's exuberance here may hint at themes of gluttony or excess, aligning with prevailing ideas of human folly and the fleeting nature of earthly pleasures. In this painting, Bruegel strikes a delicate balance between celebration and critique. While we are drawn to the infectious energy of the dancers, their exaggerated gestures and flushed expressions serve as a subtle reminder of the folly of unrestrained indulgence. Such duality is a hallmark of Bruegel's work, where joy and caution coexist seamlessly. In The Wedding Dance, Bruegel transforms a seemingly mundane scene into something far more profound, a celebration of life's pleasures, but also a mirror of humanity's tendencies. It is a vivid window into the past, rich in detail and meaning that continues to captivate viewers to this day. In 1567, Pieter Bruegel the Elder painted The Conversion of Paul, a monumental work that now resides in the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna. True to Bruegel's style, the painting transforms a significant biblical story into a sweeping, immersive landscape teeming with life and detail. The event depicted is drawn from the Book of Acts, where Saul of Tarsus, a persecutor of Christians, is struck blind and called by God to become Paul the Apostle. The dramatic moment, traditionally portrayed with strong divine light and centered on Saul, is here approached from Bruegel's unique perspective. Rather than isolating the protagonist, Bruegel embeds the biblical narrative into a vast, mountainous landscape that dominates the canvas. At first glance, it might be easy to miss the story entirely. The scene is seen from a high vantage point, a hallmark of Bruegel's compositions, where the scale of nature overshadows human activity. Saul and his companions are scattered in the rocky midground. Some figures are on horseback while others have fallen as they reel from the heavenly force that has just descended. Bruegel captures the chaos of the moment. Frightened animals scatter, riders are thrown, and gestures of confusion punctuate the group. Yet the conversion itself is almost subtle, with Saul depicted as just one figure among many. This deliberate compositional choice reflects Bruegel's deep interest in humanity's insignificance within the grand scale of nature. The towering mountains, winding paths, and tumultuous terrain evoke a sense of divine power far greater than any individual. Nature becomes an omnipresent force, silent, eternal, and indifferent to the small struggles of man. It's a theme Bruegel often explored in his works, juxtaposing humanity's fleeting moments against the backdrop of the natural world. Bruegel's inclusion of intricate details also invites deeper examination. Look closely, and you'll spot figures engaged in seemingly unrelated activities. Travelers, soldiers, and herds of cattle traverse the landscape, seemingly unaware of the miraculous event occurring nearby. This blending of the mundane with the miraculous gives the painting a unique realism, anchoring the divine story in the everyday life of the 16th century. The conversion of Paul also speaks to Bruegel's time. Painted in an era of religious upheaval during the Reformation, the work reflects subtle commentary on faith, transformation, and divine intervention. Saul's conversion can be seen as symbolic, a call for reflection and repentance amidst a period of widespread spiritual conflict and uncertainty. In the conversion of Paul, Bruegel challenges traditional narrative approaches, embedding the sacred within the earthly and portraying divine power not through grandeur, but through the overwhelming beauty and vastness of nature. It is a masterpiece that demands patience and careful observation, rewarding viewers with layer upon layer of meaning.